another business day here on Sauti Yako. This week we are out to establish how easy it is for businesses to access loans from banks or other financial institutions. Let's do this. Our journey this week begins at this branding shop. Remember, we are out to find out with what ease businesses are able to access financing from banking institutions. And I'm lucky to be joined by Nashweas. Tafadhali niambie jina lako.
My name is Nashweas.
What do you do in this shop particularly? What do you do for living, if I may ask?
I'm a designer. I do blooding, engraving, and designing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been in that business, if I want?
5 years.
5 years is a long time. How has been the experience?
I think my experience, let's say from the time I have graduated from university, I started to do blooding. So I think that is my experience. Yeah.
So what I would like to find out from you is how easy is it kupata loan from financial institutions? Wacha tuanze na umeshawahi kutafuta loan ya biashara?
For now, sema nimechukua any loan ama nimeapply any loan juu biashara I think iko sawa tu kwa blooding, side blooding.
Oh, so you've not found a need to maybe kutafuta loan?
Yeah. Na for now nataka kuchukua loan at least niongeze machine nyingine.
Well, now that you mentioned unataka to expand, of course machinery.
Yeah. I just want to expand my business.
Considering machinery is capital intensive, una need of course facility, but do you think utakuwa presentable enough kwa bank? Presentable meaning zile vitu wataitisha in terms of requirements kama uko nazo as a business?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think those would be in terms of requirements pale kwa bank?
Kwa bank I think wanaangalianga flow yako ya venye una save ama venye unatoa ama venye una invest. Yeah.
Okay, so Nashweas has at this point not yet tried to access a facility from any financial institutions. But that said, he says he has plans, which maybe we can say tutarudi baadaye tuone kama utapata ama namna gani.
Soon, like 1 month or 2 months.
Great. Wacha tuseme tutarudi baadaye tuone kama umepata. Asante sana. Asante. As we continue on this week's conversation, remember it is about assessing how easy it is for businesses to access facilities from financial institutions. This time I am joined by a lady, Florence, the proprietor of Florence Mama J Nail Spa at Imenti in the Central Business District, Nairobi. Asante mama kwa kuongea na sisi.
Asante pia.
Niambie jinsi biashara imekuwa now that 2021 imeanza, ni kama corona inaenda kushuka, wewe unaonaje biashara?
Biashara sio mbaya sababu tangu corona ije sasa ni kama inaenda ikiisha. Kwa hivyo sasa in fact we cannot complain now. Everything is coming up to normal.
Things are looking up.
Yeah, as you can see.
Oh yeah, my camera person will be able to show you how well the salon is performing right now. So 2021 is clearly not a bad year. But sasa ningetaka nijue kama you have considered kuchukua facility yoyote since umeanza hii biashara.
Not really. Sababu tangu nilianza hakuna wakati nimekuwa sina kazi nzuri ati ningeweza kuuliza maybe niongezewe kitu kama ya kuboost biashara. I think I'm fine.
How long have you been in this business, if I may ask?
I've been here for the last 6 years. Yeah, with my boys here.
Oh, you've had several employees. How many, if we may ask as well?
I have 8.
Well, that's not a small number. And if you say things are looking up, it's maybe because 2021 is a better year?
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah.
Na sasa maybe sababu zako za kutoenda kutafuta loan labda ni zipi?
Ni kwa sababu okay, if I would make it personal, sasa kama mimi ni mama, ile pesa napata hapa, wacha tuseme kama kila siku napata kama 6K, sina mtoto nasomesha, kwa hivyo sasa sitataka pesa ya kwenda kuchukua niweke kwa kazi, hiyo imenitosha.
So that you're able to work with whatever you get and still run this business. Asante sana kwa kuongea na sisi, unless uko na kitu ungetaka kutuambia.
Ningetaka kuwashukuru kwa kutembea, sababu naona nyinyi watu wachanga na mnachangamuka kuja kutujulia hali. Yeah. Welcome next time. Come and make nails with us.
Yes, of course. course.
Yes.
That we are considering. Asante sana. So I guess that's it for this particular business. Let's continue on our journey to establish with what ease businesses are able to access financial facilities from banks. That's it for now. Remember, we are continuing with the conversation of establishing how easy it is for businesses to access facilities from financial institutions. This time, I am going to be joined by Rosa, the proprietor of this design house. Asante, Rosa, for speaking to us.
Karibu sana.
Maybe you could tell us more about what business you're doing inside here.
Basically, I'm into ladies' wear, dresses, jumpsuits, and all that.
And maybe I should ask, now that we're in 2021, how is business compared to last year?
I could say it's picking, not as bad since Corona hit. Yeah, but yeah, things are getting back to normalcy.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a
Yes, it is a good sign. Now, what I would like to establish for this particular day is have you ever tried to access a loan from a bank, maybe?
From a bank, no, but I'm in another group, like how do I put it?
Like
It's a table banking.
Uh-huh.
So we're just women there. We assist one another
Yes.
to grow and stuff. Yeah.
So you're able to access a loan from, have you tried now? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have.
Maybe we should speak about how easy it was or not.
Well, it's easy for us as women because we know each other, and depending on the amount you want, we have guarantors there, and then so yeah.
But I don't think you need as much now that you're already people who know each other. It should not be as complicated to have someone guarantee you a loan, eh?
Yeah, no, not really.
But so for, in terms of requirements, besides the normal things they ask for in terms of IDs and other documents, what's there to be needed?
Not much, since we know each other, so we are comfortable, and there's trust. Yeah.
Asante sana for speaking to us, Rosa.
Thank you so much.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps this edition. But for Rosa, hers has been a different case because she's not tried to access a facility from a bank per se, but she has accessed a facility from a table banking, sort of a group where people come together and get their finances on a table. And then if you need a facility, you're able to access at, of course, an interest. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me on Sauti Yako.
Well, that was the voice from the streets. However, we also managed to talk to the chairman and the head of Banking of Financial Services Committee at the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, Sam Omukoko, who also weighed in on his thoughts when it comes to the ease of access to finance, particularly for small businesses in the country. Take a look. And there you have it. Now with me in studio to help us understand all this is an expert and someone who I'm happy has made time to be here today. And she's none other than Margaret Waithera Kimani, Senior Manager and Head of Women and Youth Banking at SBN Bank. Welcome to the show, Maggie.
Thank
Margaret
you.
or Maggie.
Thank you. Maggie is fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Now you've had the opinions of the people of the streets. You've also listened to the chairman of Financial Services, KNCCI, on his thoughts when it comes to access to credit, to SME credits. Now, as someone who's directly in this industry, the banking sector, and you deal directly with women and youth businesses, and we know in the country, those are actually two subgroups that struggle when it comes to business. So I feel like you're a perfect person to talk about this.
Yes.
What would be your general assessment on when it comes to the bankability of businesses in the country? And maybe do you agree with the sentiments of the chairman of the KNCCI? What would you have to say when it comes to SMEs accessing credit and what the situation actually looks like in the country right now?
Thank you, Ingrid. And the chairman is absolutely right. The first question you asked me was on bankability. I'll tell you for a fact, the reason for us as State Bank of Mauritius, we say SBM Bank in Kenya, the reason we've taken this segment and decided to set aside a special department, which I run with my colleagues in the bank, is because we see that there is that challenge. Yeah, so he's so right that there's that challenge that bankability can be improved. I hope you're also aware that there's a banking charter, thanks to our governor, right. Central Bank of Kenya. They came together with us, stakeholders in the banking sector, people who are passionate about impacting the Kenyan economy. Because even before Corona, the banking charter was passed. And one of the things that we are so passionate about is State Bank of Mauritius, by the way, right. came all the way from Mauritius, 50-year-old sovereign bank, we want to play a part. We want to impact. We want to be part of the transformation journey that we see here in Kenya. And of course, the employees are Kenyan. So right. at every given point, we are always thinking about how can we improve the bankability. Now, let's go back to the sector you've spoken about. Right. And I love that in the interview, you were calling it the
one
voice
on the streets,
of
Sauti Yako.
In the Sauti Yako, I
yes.
was smiling when I saw that girl going around interviewing different entrepreneurs, young. I saw majority were women. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but it's important because at the end of the day, your chairman spoke about data. In Kenya, unfortunately, but though for me, personally, I see it as an opportunity. The fact that we do not have data, even before Corona, I know there are stakeholders, Metropole, actually, your CRB side and the Metro organization, I know you're one of the companies that is involved in collecting data. Yeah. So I think this is a big opportunity for Kenya. Remember, on the contrary side, we are actually known as the biggest mobile. We are one of the hugest case study in even Harvard. They're still trying to figure out why is Kenya so mobile driven. Right. So if a lot of our transactions are going through our mobile phone, why is it that we do not have a lot of data of our customers? And it boils back, you see, we are intertwined between the banking sector, the consumer. So I see that this is an opportunity for us also to play a part. We are not there yet, to be honest. It's not just the banking sector. In general, banks being able to collaborate with the fintechs, because the fintechs hold the data, right? The data is like in the mobile data. You would know how much I borrow, how often I borrow. Even as a youth, you can imagine, as a youth, you would know that this person in high school has already started borrowing at right. a very early age. You can imagine if we had a pool of this data sitting in one place. Can you imagine where we would be?
And let me give you easy to figure everything out.
Exactly. And let me give you an example. And it's a very humble example. So when I was in the States, I bought my first house based on my credit. Right? And even I remember when I was borrowing money to get my first car, which I was so excited about, they also used my social security number. It's equivalent of your KRA PIN. Right. So as you walk in, and I remember the first one was in a credit union. I don't know, in Kenya we say maybe DTMs, deposit micro taking finances. Right. So when I walked in, all they needed to know was my social security number. Can you picture this? Can you picture this with me? In a few years, or I'm hoping this year, because a lot of work has been put on the ground, if I could walk into a bank and the bank just asks me, I know we have, is it citizen, what is that thing we did, Huduma number?
Right.
Assume our Huduma number is our equivalent of social security number. If the banker or any microfinance or any institutions, including our fintech friends, the Safaricoms of the world, if anybody would punch in your data and just come up with all your history, I know there are pros and cons to it,
right.
but for me, I see it as an opportunity where banks will no longer, and I'm speaking as a banker, trust you me, on both sides of the coin, in different parts of the world, if we banks, the minute we banks stop asking for a lot of paperwork, I think that will be the day where we will be able to improve this bankability, because you can imagine somebody might qualify for 50,000 and another one might qualify for 50 million. I think just the gap in between is something we can bridge very easily.
Right.
So I see, I agree with your chairman when he was talking about data. Data, the more we can have this database, of course, that is secure, of course, that has governance and policies and mechanisms in place, I think that's when bankability will, in terms of how we can bank more people. But now let's speak to the customer side.
Right.
On the customer side, now that we are in Kenya, now that we are still where we are in terms of people need to understand about bankability, I think it's important that our customers keep records. And this speaks to the data. You see now when you show up in a Kenyan bank, the first thing they would require is show me your, your transaction history. Show me your previous banking history. And a lot of times you find that in our SME sector, and let me speak specific to women and youth,
right.
because let me use an example of the lady who is doing nails, yes. Who does our nails in our beauty shops.
Right.
For such a lady, a lot of times, I'm sure for her she's doing it, but a lot of times you find that we are mixing our business, receipts, finances, together with our personal finances. You see that sometimes does not improve on your bankability. Another thing that I would want to talk about is your company. How is it set up? Is it registered? You see?
Right.
Because a lot of times you find, and this is, I'll speak this from an experience because I'm always in the field. Like this morning I started at 7. I was chatting you earlier.
Yes.
We love being with the customer because you see, for us, I think we are the only bank in this country that is so, for me, my passion is when I come to your shop and I see what you're doing. Personally, that is a learning opportunity, personally. As a person, yes. I get to learn that, wow, your office runs like this. Perhaps I assume you open at 9. Maybe you've been making money since 7. You understand?
Yes.
You also get to understand what are the customer needs. And as a bank, we've made a very deliberate effort to make sure that we've customized our solutions to different sectors. Your chairman, before I forget, was talking about, the fact that we do not structure loans. In Kenya, we have these vanilla products that yes. sometimes are not meeting the needs of the SME sector,
right.
which actually contributes to the bankability problem. And I'm happy to report that, and this is not just me loving what I do, but these are things we, as a bank, we are very conscious about. I'll give you an example. When it comes to the education sector, a lot of these schools you see, they are in the SME sector.
Right.
And for us, this is a department I ran 2 years ago. We were able as a bank to go to structure, school fees. What happens? Before now, the new COVID disruptions, we used to have 3 semesters,
yes.
In the 3 semester, you'll find that parents are paying at the beginning of the year. So January is a good month in the education sector. Then you'll find the other 3 times when they collect. So we were able to structure loans for our SME sector, education for our schools, in such a way that we collect during the peak season when parents are paying,
right.
and then the other times we just structure the loan. So banks, and I want to challenge my fellow bankers, banks in the market, it's very important that we stay relevant. It's very important that we keep tweaking our products to make sure that we are actually meeting customers halfway, because at the end of the day, when our economy grows, our SME are the backbone. I know this message is overrated, but our SMEs are actually the ones who have held this economy throughout this global pandemic, the worst we've ever seen, some of us.
Right.
And it's very important when you tweak. Remember, the education sector was also heavily affected. Yeah, heavily affected. And as a bank, what did we do? We went out there. Of course, we always consult our regulator. And luckily enough, we were able to, extend the period of the loans, even for individuals. There are customers who had personal loans with us. We were able to extend, thanks to the governor has also, the Central Bank of Kenya has been very, supportive in opening up to such suggestions. So we were able to have a moratorium for such customers. And guess what? Schools are back.
Right.
I don't know if you're a parent. Many of us parents have paid school fees. Our kids are back to school. So the schools are back on their feet. Even where the hope had been dimmed completely. Another thing we also pride ourselves in is the fact that we do a lot of capacity building. Now, bankability, I can sit here and highlight you a list of 10 things that I see as a challenge in bankability. But for us as a bank, I told you about the charter, the banking charter that was passed. Why the banking charter was passed is because you remember the interest rates were a bit high, and there was a lot of engagement with customers and the industry. And the banking charter, one of the output of the banking charter that we agreed, and as a bank we've taken very seriously, is capacity building. So this morning, one of our staff, we partnered with a customer. They're called Passion for Profit. So we believe that many businesses started out of a passion. But once you start that business, let's assume it's doing nails, or supplying branding, like the guy you interviewed, the first one. Are you making profits then? So every Thursday we have a session with the SMEs, and actually because we are not trainers, our core business is obviously banking. We've never diverted it from it. So what we decided is to partner with an SME like you. Luckily, she's a woman. She's called Frida. And her organization is called Passion for Profit. There are many other examples I can give you. For us, our biggest strength is collaboration. We believe that we have 50, how many millions in Kenya? We cannot reach every Kenyan. We are here, we have 52 branches in Kenya, but we cannot reach out alone. So we are huge on collaboration. I'll give you an example. We partnered with the International Trade Center. And for that one particular, we are very particular, and this one lies in my sector, which is in the women banking. We want women to export our products. I mean, come on, it's our pride of our Kenya.
Of course.
Like, do you see these things
that
I'm wearing?
So beautiful.
These
I wouldn't
things
even think it's made in Kenya.
Leave alone Kenya. These are made in someone's house.
That is so beautiful.
And this lady is one of our customers. So I buy from her, and when every time, of course I had to talk about it. It's a no-brainer.
Of course.
She makes this, she's so creative. She's actually retired, and this is her retirement plan.
Wow.
She makes them in her living room, dining living room.
You don't have to worry about rent.
You can see this passion. We want to convert these to be bought by someone in New York, someone in Egypt, anywhere,
Agreed. And the quality looks good too.
Oh my God, there. You can imagine.
Really looks amazing.
And the amount of time this lady takes is, she can close her eyes and do when we are chatting with her. Wow. But this is a reason. So we partnered with the likes of She Trades. It's called the project. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Yes, I know about it.
We are one of the, I think their biggest partner here in Kenya as a bank. And the reason we chose them was very deliberate. We not only want customers to come to us for lending, we want customers. Our biggest value proposition is actually access to markets. You see, and I want to say this with a very big disclaimer, that banks actually offer the cheapest form of credit. Take it from me.
It's a fact.
Because it's a fact. It's globally a fact. I've banked in elsewhere. I've lived both. I've done my research, and I know you also know, because you're very good at what you do. It's a fact. It's a fact. Banks offer the cheapest form of, because we are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, and many other reasons. But now, and that's the reason for us, we partner with such organizations, so that it's not always about customers coming to borrow from us. How about one of the customer there you interviewed? I was surprised and I was laughing when she said, I have not borrowed from the bank yet. Why? Because at the end of the day, if customers have enough access to markets, if they are selling enough, Yeah?
Yes.
It's a good balance that when the customer stays bankable, for us that's our pride.
Right.
And that's our joy. We want the customer to stay bankable. We walk the journey with the customer. We train them, like I told you, every week there's a session that goes on. And I thank God that when COVID happened, we were doing this in our SME hubs. Please allow me to say that in Kenya we have 5 SME hubs because we consider that SME is part of our what we do for a living. But we have 5 SME hubs in all the regions. So we have in the Rift, in the Coast region, we have one in Mombasa. Here in Nairobi we have 3, and in Nakuru we do have 1. So in our SME hub, and in Nairobi, when you have time in town, you can check our corner house.
Right.
Just if you see our corner house upstairs,
There's another hub there.
Oh, it's beautiful hub. It's one of my best samples of our SME hubs. It's quite spacious. We have a boardroom upstairs. So we were doing that. We were doing these capacity buildings because we want customers to come. As of course, and what we do is we do themed, training. And we do these trainings out of research we did. We did some survey and we asked customers, what topics, where do you struggle most? What are the topics you want? Like in January, this January, we were talking about compliance. Remember, there's a new regulation. There's a digital tax now we have to pay.
Yes.
Thanks to COVID or not. And then there's a BSO. There was a business registration requirements by the government. So these are regulations. And you see in January is when you make sure that you're compliant, make sure that, when you go to KenGen, who is also our new partner that we are working with, if we go to KenGen and lobby and advocate for them to open procurement opportunities for our women as a access to market opportunity, you don't go and they're asking you, do you have AGPO certificate? Or do you have business registration certificate? You're scratching your head like, oops, I'm not registered. So we were talking about compliance. This month of February, we've been talking about human resource. Remember when COVID happened, I don't know it's happening in your organization, but many organizations have had to think about what contracts do I have with my suppliers, internally, how is productivity? So we choose topics that are actually a pain point for our customers. And it speaks to bankability because at the end of the day, if customers are cost efficient, they'll have more to work with. And even when they come to the bank, they can qualify. Allow me to talk about an unsecured lending facility that the bank came up with. In 2020.
I'm going to allow you just now, but I want you to, because we must talk about your book. So when you're talking to me about this unsecured banking, I would also like you to tackle the aspect of collateral. You know, that's another big problem that SMEs keep talking about. We're going to these banks, they ask us for this collateral. I mean, I'm starting up. And that also came up in the line of, the structuring of loans. Usually it's not in tandem with what the SME is looking for, which leads to the situation of then asking for collateral. So as you talk to me about that, I would like you to tie that in for us. Then we have to talk about your book.
Oh, awesome! Thank you, thank you. Thanks for remembering that.
Absolutely.
And I'm quite honored. Because when you come to the requirements, let's go head on it. Of course, let's be honest. We are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, and I think this is good for consumer protection. At the end of the day, you saw even the interest rates when at some point they had to come down to a reasonable amount. But when it comes to the requirements, for us, what we do, we try not to be. Let me backtrack a bit. The reason State Bank of Mauritius came to Kenya is because they are very big on corporate governance. And actually, I don't know if you're aware that in 2018, we bought 2 banks. The reason Central Bank of Kenya allowed State Bank of Mauritius to invest is because they are very huge. One of the most stable banks in the world. In fact, I think voted top 100 banks in the world last year. So corporate governance is very important because at the end of the day, I'm an investment banker by training. I think before I moved to Kenya, I'm an investment banker. I believe that governance is the heart of banking. So it's very important, not to say that we have to be super stringent. So for us, what we do, of course, we have a checklist of what every bank in Kenya, before you lend to a consumer, what you must, what you must look at. I'll give you an example. And actually, I brought I brought the loan application form for the benefit of you know,
That's very proactive.
our
I like
consumers.
that. Yes.
Because every day we are lending. You see, because that's, let me remind you, Banking 101. The reason banks exist, and I keep joking with my other friends in different sectors, the reason banks exist is to just be a bridge. So Ingrid has her 20 billion, and I have my 10 shillings. So we all put money in the bank. And when Maggie needs, because Maggie only have 10 shillings, and Ingrid has 10 million, the minute I need to the minute I need a loan, because I don't have enough, I'll be borrowing your money, isn't it?
Yes.
And then he's maybe 2 million.
Yes.
So what happens is that if we are not following the corporate governance, there'll be a problem. Because when Madam Ingrid needs her money back, what will happen? Maggie will not be able to have been paying back the money so that your money is readily available at any given time you need. So for me, when it comes to compliance, and you know, in terms of the requirements, I see where and why the Central Bank of Kenya has to regulate, and I think it's important.
Right.
But, and I'll allow me to read a few of the things we ask for. If it's a registered business, we always ask that we of course, we have to see the registration. You have, of course, to have been paying city council and the likes. We want to make sure that there's memorandum and articles of association. Those are things required by the government. And I'll give you an example. So what happened in a few years, I don't know if you're in Kenya that time, a few years ago, what happened?
Right.
Do you remember? What happened?
Remind me.
What happened when we had some very scandalous issues where, you know, NYS and all this other...
Yes, I remember that.
You understand?
Yes.
Why? It's because the registration, the business registration, the ownership of the business, why I talk about memorandum and articles of association, perhaps there was a bit of masquerading there. I think so.
Right.
I definitely think so.
Right.
So you see, it boils back to the company registration. So we want to make sure, and I know that's the reason the government came up with an initiative to do a mandatory disclosure of who owns this company. Let me use an example of Metropole. If Metropole, perhaps 10 years ago, was owned by XYZ, but perhaps that, you know, ownership has changed over the years. The bank might not have been informed, right? So those are the things we look at. So those are mandatory things.
Right.
But for us, of course, Kenya KRA, Kenya PIN, the PIN
Right,
certificate,
KRA PIN,
yeah. There's also business registration I've spoken about. But also, we also look at the annual returns of the business. And remember at the beginning what I talked about. In Kenya, sometimes one of the challenges SMEs have, and that's the reason we train them often, is because some of them are not keeping doing their bookkeeping religiously as they should. And I'm not talking about you investing in a CPA. No. One of one of the things we recommend, and when we train customers, because we call it conversations, every Thursday and every often when we are training customers, we tell them, if Ingrid is so good at what she does, why don't you approach, I'm using you as an example, you can approach such a person and they can be giving this service to you if you're a young business for free.
Right.
In return for something, like it could be a business advisory service or something. You don't have to hire a CPA, like paying a salary. If that's not something I would recommend. But of course, depending on the size of the company, some companies can afford to hire an accountant, you know, who is part of the company. But for the micro SMEs, remember, that might not be possible.
Yeah.
So we ask for annual returns, audited accounts, of course, depending on the size of the business. Remember the checklist. I'm going through the checklist.
Yes.
That way it's not...
We're together.
Exactly. And then also we always ask for things like, if you're borrowing to build something, we'll ask you for valuation. That way you're not, claiming this business is more than it should be, overvaluing or undervaluing.
Right.
So those are some of the things. Also, cash flow projections. Sometimes when we are lending businesses that have not existed for so long, we would want to also know that where is the business going. I mean, at the end of the day, I give you back to my example, your example of you having your 10 million and me having my 50,000, and I need to borrow, and I need to make sure that you're also able to pay back. I'm able to pay back so that when you need the money, it's available. But for us, what also we do is that we customize. So the reason we have relationship managers and portfolio managers and branch managers and regional managers is to make sure that we go understand the business, and then we come back to the bank. We have a credit system we use, very robust, and we make sure that we customize it to the sector. Remember the example I gave you of education?
Right.
Yeah, it's the same with farmers who are exporting coffee. They get paid at a certain time. So we have to make sure we structure it in a way that suits the customer, and it's a win-win for the bank and the customer.
Now, Maggie,
Yes.
I feel like I really actually shortchanged us and the audience when it comes to this show. So I'm just going to go off on a limb and ask you right on air. I feel like you're going to be my next guest for I have a show called Eye on the Money. I know.
Really?
I feel like we need a lot more time to delve into this.
Yes,
so
I think the
next
time is too
episode on
short.
Tuesday, if you'll say yes now here on air.
That's ambush, but okay. What time
So
on
we'll
Tuesday?
talk
We can talk
right
about.
after here.
Yes, yes.
But as you take us to closing of the show, I can't let you do that without talking about this book that you
Okay.
wrote that's going to be very vital. So if in 1 minute you can wrap up for us what the book is about, then
Okay.
we'll talk on the side on how more to give value to our SME customers. So talk to us about the the leadership giants in your book in 1 minute.
Thank you. In 1 minute, it's so
Right.
hard to do, but anyway, this book is about. God has been speaking to me about showcasing what Kenya has, and I believe for me, the reason Kenya is where it is, and the reason we every day we complain this is not working, is because all of us are not unleashing the leadership giants in us. I'll give you an example of you guys. When you started this show, did you need the president to come and knock at your door and, hey guys, do this for our SMEs? No. And even in my own life, and this is actually a reflection of a lot of things I've done, advocating for SMEs, advocating for people living with disability, advocating for women and youth, and so many other things that I see coming. And here, by the way, I also highlight leaders that are doing it, that are still alive. Of course, Bob Collymore, unfortunately, is one of the, someone that we've worked so closely together. We want to highlight Kenyan stories, whether it's businesses that are transforming lives. But at the end of the day, this is a very thought-provoking book.
I've managed to peruse through real quick, and I feel like
Yes.
it's a very good book. I'm going to actually get myself a copy.
Excellent. Get your copy. And I look to the writing more stories. There's a lot of, the last chapter, by the way, allow me to say, is about Kenyan young and fearless young people who are innovating right in high school. How awesome is that?
So
and these are guys,
inspirational.
one of the kid is, one of this young boy is from Kwale, Taita Hills, and you can imagine, you have to read the book
I have to
and
read the
see
book.
some of the innovations. And I keep saying, at their age, what was I doing?
Right.
And these are the stories we would want to talk about and keep unleashing the leadership giants in us so that we make Kenya a better place. We make the SME sector, easier for micro SMEs to actually bring out their innovations, and so that we also stop importing too much as a
Right.
country.
Perfect.
Yes.
So that was Margaret Waithera Kimani, Senior Manager and Head of Women and Youth Banking at SBM Bank. I'm very well aware we haven't even got into the meat of this conversation. So for sure, I'm going to bring Maggie back. We're going to have a conversation after this, so we'll see how to bring her back on Eye on the Money. Unfortunately, that's all the show we had for you today. Thank you very much for being a part of us today on Metropole Business Center, but don't go anywhere because we have a lot more amazing programming coming your way. Have a wonderful day.